Their job was to respond.
I didn't want to lead the people. And then the windows exploded. And I'll tell you, it went from daylight to darkness in like 2 seconds.
Rescue.
Inside was very hot because of the flames, the smoke, the taste in your mouth from that jet fuel.
Recover.
I just grabbed my partner and I asked him if he was okay. And he had blood just strewn all over his shirt.
We had people who were coming out that were on fire.
The whole image comes back to those people with their dogs and their white suits searching for body parts.
It was like something out of a war movie. There was helicopters landing, taking off, there was police cars, fire engines, there was people running with gurneys, backboards. It was like complete chaos.
Tonight, under attack, inside the Pentagon on September 11th.
From ABC News, this is Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
Did those hijackers know what they were doing? I mean, really know? Could they possibly have imagined all the consequences that would take root in the rubble of the World Trade Center and the Pentagon and in that Pennsylvania field? They were clearly prepared, indeed determined to kill many, many innocent people. They obviously understood the symbolic importance of slamming 2 passenger airliners into the heart of America's financial district. And what greater symbol of America's military might than the Pentagon? But did they foresee the U.S. campaign into Afghanistan or the far-flung missions around the world to track down and destroy Al-Qaeda? What about the gathering momentum toward war against Iraq? Was that part of the original plan? Could they have envisioned the tensions that would produce between the United States and so many of its allies? All these things have evolved in the past year. But on 9/11 of the year 2001, as they hurled themselves and their unwitting victims into those explosive conflagrations of suicide and mass murder, it's hard to imagine them focused on anything much more than their own imminent deaths. Just as on the ground at the Pentagon, approximately 23,000 military and civilian employees were driven in one instant from doing their jobs to the preservation of lives. There was only a relatively small group of men and women for whom those 2 functions were one and the same. The unit was called the Defense Protection Service. Since 9/11, it's been expanded and is now called the Pentagon Force Protection Agency. For simplicity's sake, although they don't much care for the description, you could think of them as the Pentagon Police. 12 months ago today, what they are called meant much less than what they did.
Immediately after the 11th, I probably didn't sleep a decent night for months. I had a complete and utter fear of ever getting in an airplane again. There isn't a day that goes by I don't see the plane hit the building. The first time I did fly again, I was so petrified I almost couldn't sit in the seat because I kept seeing that image over and over again.
It just happened a couple of seconds ago. I went to the soda machine, and it dawned on me it's where the first fatality was. On the floor, I looked down at the floor, and I can actually see the person laying there.
It's still pretty hard because for a few times I went out to that construction site, and there's still that taste in my mouth that you can still taste that jet fuel, or maybe it's psychological, I don't know. But you still can taste it in the back of your mouth.
I didn't hear anything, but I saw the aircraft above my head, about 80 feet above the ground, 400 miles an hour. The reason, I have some experience as a pilot, and I looked at the plane, didn't see any landing gear, didn't see any flaps down. I realized it wasn't going to land. I realized what it was doing.
I was beginning to conduct a roll call for all of the immediate supervisors in the operations office. And I received a call from Chief Jester, and he informed me at that time that one of the Twin Towers in New York City had just been attacked by a plane.
Before I could really think, I had my door open, and the vortice off the wing pushed me kind of into my car, and I don't know if I half dove into the car, if I leaned into the car, but I got on the radio and broadcast. I said a plane is heading towards the heliport side of the building. From what I recall, I said it in a pretty normal tone because it was absolutely surreal.
I advised the officers that were in the operational center to leave and to mobilize at all of the entrances.
And I stayed in the car for a second because the plane was so low, I wasn't sure that it was even going to make it there. It was close enough that I could see the windows and the blinds had been pulled down. Read American Airlines on it.
The only thing I could hear is one of the officers on the air screaming the plane, and so we suddenly realized that we had been hit. From there, things just escalated very, very fast. There was hardly no time to do anything other than follow some of the procedures. I immediately conferenced my channels with the police mutual aid radio system, and there are approximately 28 different police agencies all over the metropolitan area that were able to hear what was happening at the time, and they basically surrounded the Pentagon.
I was riding the bike and seen the smoke, and I knew I had to get to the Pentagon and go to work. I was wondering if any of our officers were killed. I saw no planes, of course. What side of the buildings were going to hit? And I started to get out of my seat, and I heard another transmission. There was another officer. This time, it was an officer screaming into the radio, saying, "The building's on fire. The plane's crashed." And I said to myself, "What side of the building?" I still see it. I can walk over to that wall that's now, put back together. See the flames coming out of the hole. Something came over the radio when we were in the meeting. I said, "Let's go out in the hallway, find out what's going on." Turn on our radios, and we heard, we've been hit, there's been an explosion. Right away, the oh shit syndrome kicked in. I ran in, I said, "We got to evacuate, we have to evacuate now."
Our main concern at that point was to mobilize all the officers at the entrances, to making sure that we didn't have any secondary attacks or anyone trying to infiltrate the building. Then what we tried to do is make sure that we had all of the employees of the building evacuated. I saw people just running past the glass doors of the cafeteria away from where the plane had impacted. So I knew it was over by 5:45 and 6. I didn't know it was 4:45. I instructed the officers who were in the mobile unit to ensure that we had everybody out of the parking lots and at the 300-foot standoff to ensure that there were no secondary devices.
We had people who were coming out that were on fire. The officers were describing it on the air, and I was trying to get some of the command posts set up, telling them where to go. So I made a left and went toward the people that were totally screaming. I mean, I never saw panic and confusion. So I ran toward them, and they said, "Officer, you're going the wrong way." I said, "No, I'm going the right way. You need to get out of the building. I need to get to where the plane hit." I responded to quarters 5 and 6 on the second floor, and the first fatality was a military guy. He came out of the hallway and bleeding profusely from a head wound, and I looked at him, and I tried to say something to him, and he collapsed. He fell right next to the steps, and I looked at him. He appeared to be dead to me. Inside it was very hot because of the flames, the smoke, the taste in your mouth from that jet fuel. You try to breathe, and you're having a hard time breathing in. And I looked out in the center court, and I saw people laying in the grass. I seen medical people running, and it then hit me that this was a serious crash. This plane must have been big, and it's taken a lot of the building out.
There's a lot of black smoke, a lot of twisted debris. The Pentagon itself has caved in from the top.
I ran into one young lady who was in total hysterics. She just grabbed her hair, started pulling it. She just dropped to the ground, and I just looked at the person immediately to my right and grabbed him, and I said, "You're in charge of her. Get her out and move her out now and don't stop." I looked down to my right, saw somebody coming down a hallway, and this is when the smoke started getting very heavy. And they said, "Officer Brennan, lead the fatalities. They need you on the first floor by the C-ring. It appears a nose cone came right through the wall, and there's people trapped underneath the debris." So I started heading down the escalator. The smoke started coming up. I go, "Oh boy." And there was military guys literally taking off the shirts and wrapping around their mouth and nose. After about a few minutes, I came out.
And there was a doctor, he showed up on the scene, and he said, look, officer, you need to get these people out because the building's going to come down. Because we looked up, and the flames were shooting up out of the window. You could see all the windows. At that time, I got on the radio, and I said, I need several eight, 9 firefighters with air packs to the scene. I have people that are on fire, that are trapped underneath debris. I have smoke. I have complete chaos. I'm standing in jet fuel. And then to ruin the day completely was the second call that all people inside the building, DPS, emergency personnel, you are to evacuate the building. We have a report. Another plane just crossed the Potomac, is heading towards the building. I said, oh no, I can't believe a second plane coming at us.
I started running down the hallway, and my supervisor said, Rosati, get out, you got to evacuate. And I told him, I said, no, I'm going in. I tried to get down a little bit further, and started pounding on doors saying, get out, evacuate, Pentagon police, get out, we need to evacuate the building. Something exploded. To this day, I still don't know what it is. And I just grabbed my partner, and I asked him if he was okay. And he had blood just strewn all over his shirt from where he evacuated people, and an infant. And he couldn't answer me. I just looked in his eye, and I said, George, look at me. I said, are you okay? So I gave him a hug. I said, come on, we got to get out of here. Try to drag out some more people at that time that were either badly burned or just disoriented, and we began to triage more people out that way.
As they started bringing casualties out of the building, the command staff decided that we needed to develop a temporary morgue or a place to put casualties. So I immediately assembled my staff, and we went back downstairs, and we converted the loading dock and the delivery facility into a morgue. We had to worry about contaminations and things that we weren't prepared to do. We had to devise a way of doing it as respectfully as we possibly could, as safely as we possibly could.
At that time, I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to lead the people. And then the windows exploded. And I'll tell you, it went from daylight to darkness like in 2 seconds. And they heard the radio again that said, all firefighters, emergency personnel, and DPS, leave the building. It's from the FBI. The firefighter said to me, Officer Brennan, you're in charge. What do you want to do? I says, you're trained to save lives, correct? I said, do your job. I said, don't worry about the plane. If it comes in, it comes in. If you go, I go with you. Can't leave these people. I will not leave these people behind.
There was so many agencies down there, and everybody was wanting to help, and everybody stepped up to the plate and did what they needed to do to get the job done.
It was like something out of a war movie. There was helicopters landing, taking off. There was police cars, fire engines. There was people running with gurneys, backboards. It was like complete chaos.
I remember seeing a construction worker. He took his helmet off and slammed his helmet down on the ground and just started yelling no.
And then the firefighter, the head of the battalion chief, I think he actually told DPS, get all the medics, firefighters, everybody off the field. There's no more people coming out of the building alive. Everyone in there now is dead. The only people going in that building now are firemen.
It became a duty. It became an honor. It became anger. It became a sense of we need to accomplish this and we need to get it done. And we just kind of got in there and did what we had to do. Kind of lost perceptions of day and night because, you know, we kind of stayed right in there because we couldn't leave and we didn't know what we were going to have to contend with. So we basically hung in there.
And I've seen stuff that I won't tell you. There's things that'll be in my memory forever. There's images. I saw what was left of the cockpit, and I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that.
They had cadaver dogs go through day after day and look for human remains, and obviously they were finding it. And the handlers that went through that, they were all volunteers. Stayed out there for days, and without getting graphic, the smell is just awful. It's the most horrible thing you can ever smell in your life, and anytime I smell kerosene or diesel fuel, anything remotely like jet fuel, that the whole image comes back to those people with their dogs and their white suits searching for body parts. And I don't think anybody thanked them. I can't think of a more, the hardest job on the planet to do that, and nobody thanked them.
I actually went home for the first time that Thursday or Friday, and I saw a news article, a news story about a young child who was on a plane with his teacher. That image was very graphic because I saw that child. And it was difficult. It was tough. I had to realize that, we had to keep going. We can't give up now, and, I guess it gave me a little more resolve to hurry up and get back to work, and let's put this building back together.